Hi viewers, thank you for being here. Please sit back, relax. This is a story of love, of trust, and how one broken promise can change everything. It began on a quiet morning. The sun was soft, the birds barely awake, and in a quiet room filled with memories. Diep sat by the window, holding a small letter in her hands. She read it, over and over, the words blurred, not because of age, but because of the tears. I'll be back by your birthday. The letter said, wait for me. Always yours, James. But her birthday had come, and gone, and still, James had not returned. Diep's hands trembled, not from cold, but from something deeper, a loneliness that no one could see. In the corner of the room, an old clock ticked softly, tick, 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 each second, reminding her of the silence James had left behind. Outside, her neighbor Auntie Mai knocked gently. Diep, are you all right? Diep forced a smile. I'm fine, she said. But she wasn't. She clutched the letter to her chest, whispering, James, did you forget me? Or were you never coming back? And just like that, the wind outside picked up. It knocked over a small photo on the table. A photo of them, James and Diep, smiling under the cherry blossoms. That was last spring, before everything fell apart. Diep closed her eyes and made a quiet promise to herself. If he doesn't come back by the end of this week, I'll stop waiting. But fate had other plans. The morning after her silent vow, Diep awoke earlier than usual. The sky outside was soft gray, a hint of winter coming through the autumn air. She wrapped herself in a light shawl, the one James gave her last Tet holiday, still faintly scented with his cologne, familiar, comforting, but also painfully distant. Monday, the first day of her countdown. She didn't eat breakfast that day. Her tea went cold by the window. Every sound, the wind chime, the rustling trees, the laughter of neighborhood children, reminded her of something they used to do together. She remembered when James would sneak behind her, while she tended to her bonsai plants, cover her eyes with his hands, and whisper, guess who's back from Tokyo? Then they'd laugh, hug like it had been years, and talk until midnight. But now, there was only silence, a silence that rang louder than anything else. Tuesday, she tried to distract herself. She visited the local flower shop. The owner, Miss Lin, greeted her. Miss Diep, the peonies you love just arrived. Diep smiled weakly. Peonies, she remembered James saying once. Peonies bloom best when they're cared for with patience. Like love, Diep. Like us. She bought a small bouquet, and when she got home, she placed one bloom in the center of the letter he left behind. Wednesday, it rained all day. Slow, steady drizzle. A kind of rain that matched her thoughts. She walked to the park with an umbrella, passing the bench where James once surprised her, with a small ring box. Not an engagement ring, but a promise ring. He said, when we're ready, this will become more. For now, it's a promise. I'll never leave you behind. But now, he had left, and she had no answers. That night, she cried quietly into her pillow. Not loud sobs, just silent tears that soaked the pillow and carried her into a restless sleep. Thursday, her old friend, Uncle Kwa, came by. He noticed the fading color in her face, the tiredness in her eyes. You've been waiting too long, he said gently. Sometimes when people leave, it's not because they don't care. It's because they're afraid to return. Diep didn't answer. Her eyes drifted to the photo again. Her and James, beneath the cherry blossoms. She still believed he wasn't afraid. Just lost, somewhere between duty and love. Friday, she stayed in, didn't open the windows, didn't speak to anyone. She lit a candle, whispered a quiet prayer, not to forget him, but to forgive him, if he had truly forgotten her. That evening, she opened the drawer she hadn't touched in months. Inside, a voice message recorder, the last thing James sent before he boarded the plane. Her fingers hovered, then pressed play. Hey Diep, it's me. I know I said I'd be home soon, but something came up. It's nothing bad, I promise. I just need you to trust me one more time. I love you. Then static. Then silence. She played it 3 more times. Each time, she clutched her shawl tighter. Each time, her heart ached more. Saturday, the final day. She woke up before dawn. The air felt heavier than usual. She wore her softest dress, brushed her hair slowly, put on light makeup, the kind James always said made her eyes glow. She stood by the gate of her house, watching, listening, and then a car appeared. Black, elegant. It stopped right in front of her home. Her heart skipped. She clutched the gate. A man stepped out, tall, wearing a dark overcoat, umbrella in hand. Not James. It was his assistant, Mr. Locke. He approached her slowly, eyes filled with something between regret and fear. "Ms. Diep," he said, removing his hat. "I've come with news." Her knees weakened. Her fingers gripped the gate tighter. He's not coming back, is he?" Mr. Locke paused, shook his head. He wanted to, but something happened. "He's not well. He's in Singapore, and he's been in recovery for weeks." The world slowed down. The noise of the city faded. All Diep could hear was her own breath and a faint ringing in her ears. "Why didn't he tell me?" "He didn't want you to worry, but he never stopped thinking about you. He asked me to deliver this." Mr. Locke handed her a new letter, written in James's handwriting. She didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, she held it to her chest, eyes closed, wind brushing through her hair. He hadn't forgotten. He had been fighting too, in silence, just like her. For the first time in days, Lie Too Deep smiled, a real smile, soft, sad, but real. The countdown was over, but the story was just beginning. Sometimes love doesn't leave. It just gets lost. And today, Lie Too Deep is about to open something she thought would never come. The sun was just starting to rise. A warm light filtered through the curtains, soft golden, like the old mornings when James would make her coffee and tell her stories about work. But this morning, there was no coffee, no James, only the letter. It sat quietly on her table, untouched since yesterday, still sealed, still waiting. She stared at it for hours, not because she was afraid, but because she wanted to hold on to the moment before truth. Because truth can heal, but it can also hurt. Finally, with trembling hands, she broke the seal and began to read. "My dearest Diep, if you're reading this, then I failed to come home in time. And for that, I am more sorry than words can say. I kept thinking I'd be back before you noticed, back before your tea got cold, before the lilies on the balcony wilted. But time, it had other plans." She paused, her eyes already welled with tears, but she read on. "I was diagnosed in Tokyo. Something serious. I didn't want to tell you over the phone. You would have flown out immediately, dropped everything, and I couldn't bear to see you worry. So I stayed quiet, thinking I could finish the treatments, recover, and come back to you. Strong, whole, smiling." She closed her eyes, felt her breath shake. But things got worse, and the hospital wouldn't let me leave. Still, I asked my assistant to check on you, to make sure you were okay, to deliver this. When I couldn't hold you myself, she reached for a tissue. Her hands trembled. She kept reading, slowly. "Diep, you once told me, even if love has to wait, it must never fade. I hope mine hasn't faded for you, because yours has kept me alive, through every needle, every lonely night, every fear. You were there, even when you didn't know it." Her fingers traced the page, as if touching his words could bring him back. "If I return late, forgive me. If I never return, remember me smiling, in our garden, under the plum tree. You made my life more than a life. You made it a home." She sobbed, softly, like a song with no words. And then, there was one last line. "Forever yours, James." She didn't move for a long time, just held the letter to her heart. Listened to the quiet, let the grief flow, but also the love, because now she knew he didn't abandon her. He was protecting her, even in pain. Later that evening, she lit a lantern in the garden, placed the letter inside a small wooden box, set it beneath the plum tree, the same place James once kissed her under the first snow. She looked up at the sky, Come home soon, she whispered, or I'll wait. Just like always. Hi, dear viewers. Welcome back. Some wounds heal in silence. Others get deeper when secrets are kept. And today, Lie Too Deep is about to discover that James's absence was only one piece of the puzzle. A much darker truth was waiting just behind the curtain. It was a rainy afternoon, the kind that soaked the city in a cold hush. Everything was quiet, except for the thoughts in Diep's mind. She couldn't stop thinking about the letter. James, the pain he was hiding, but something still didn't feel right. He had an assistant, someone meant to check in on her, but no one ever came. Not once. And then, her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She hesitated, but answered. Is this Miss Diep? A woman's voice. Calm, polite, but with a hint of urgency. Yes. Who is this? I used to work for Mr. James. I don't know if this is safe to say, but I think you need to know what really happened. Diep's heart began to race. What do you mean? I already know he was sick. He couldn't come back. Silence. Then the woman spoke again. That's what you were told, but it's not the whole truth. James didn't just disappear because of his health. He was pushed away. Pushed? By who? The line went silent again. Static. Rain. Then finally, I can't say over the phone. Meet me at Café Dem at 9 p.m. Come alone. Click. The call ended. Diep sat still, stunned. Was this real? Or was grief playing tricks on her? But deep down, she knew. Something had always felt off. That evening, she dressed simply. A gray coat, hair tied back, no makeup, no distractions, only questions. She arrived at the cafe. Dim lights, a soft piano playing in the background. In the farthest corner, a woman in a long beige trench coat sat quietly, her face hidden behind a scarf and sunglasses. She looked up, then gestured for Diep to sit. You came, the woman said. Her voice was the same. Who are you? Diep asked. And what do you know about James? The woman looked around, lowered her voice. My name is Hung. I was James's personal secretary, until the company changed. Change how? Hung leaned in. James was betrayed, not just by illness, but by people he trusted. Your name, your relationship with him, became a threat to the board, to his enemies. So they made a plan to keep you apart. Diep's eyes widened. Her heart beat faster. What plan? Hung looked down. They intercepted his messages, blocked your calls, even forged letters, to make it seem like he had moved on. But he never did. He kept fighting to reach you, until they isolated him completely. Diep felt her breath stop. But why? Why would they do that? Hung's face darkened. Because of power. You made James human. And when a CEO becomes human, he becomes vulnerable. They wanted control. And you were his only weakness. It felt like the air was pulled from the room. All this time, she thought James left to protect her. But the truth? He was trying to protect them both. And they broke him for it. Where is he now? Diep whispered. Hung hesitated. They say he's in Switzerland. But no one knows for sure. I haven't heard from him in 6 months. Just rumors. Just whispers. Silence hung between them. Then Hung reached into her coat, pulled out a small device. A flash drive. This has everything. Emails, phone recordings, proof. She placed it gently on the table. Be careful, Miss Diep. Once you know the truth, you can't go back. Then she stood up and walked into the rain. Gone. Diep sat there for a long time, staring at the flash drive. Her tea turned cold, and in her heart, anger began to rise. I will find you, James, and I will bring the truth to light, no matter who tries to stop me. Now, the truth is finally starting to show its face. But are you ready to see what it really looks like? The rain had stopped, but inside lay Too Diep's heart. A storm was just beginning. She sat alone in her apartment, holding the flash drive in her hand. It was small, almost weightless, but in that moment, it felt like the heaviest thing in the world. She took a breath, plugged it into her laptop, and waited. One folder appeared, labeled only. To her, her hand trembled slightly as she clicked it open. And then, videos, letters, audio files, each one marked with a date. Some from years ago, some just months. She opened the first file. It was a video. James, sitting in a hotel room. He looked thinner, paler, but his eyes, they were still filled with love. Deep. His voice cracked. If you're seeing this, it means they couldn't stop you. It means you never gave up on me. Tears welled in her eyes. She hadn't heard his voice in years. They took everything. My emails, my board seat, even my name. But they could never take how I feel about you. He paused, looked down, then back up. I tried to reach you. God knows I tried. But I couldn't risk dragging you into the fight. They threatened you, Diep. I couldn't let them hurt you. The video ended. Diep sat frozen, her heart aching, her mind racing. She opened the next file. It was a recording. James speaking with someone. So it's done then? You forged the breakup letter. A man's voice replied. Yes, sir. She'll think you've moved on. She'll stop looking. Then James shouted. I never agreed to that. Another file. An email from one of the board members. We cannot allow James's emotional weakness to derail this merger. If the girl continues to be a distraction, she must be removed permanently. That was it. The moment the truth became undeniable. They didn't just want James out. They wanted Diep gone. Out of his life. Erased. Her tears turned to fury. She gathered the files, copied them, saved them. Then, she did something she hadn't done in years. She emailed a reporter. Subject line, you want a story? I have one that will destroy $1 billion lie. Within hours, she received a reply. A journalist named Tuan, one of the last true investigative reporters in the city. Meet me at dawn. This story could change everything. As the sun began to rise the next morning, Diep walked out into the light. No longer afraid. No longer alone. No longer the quiet girl left behind. James was still out there. Somewhere. Hurt. Broken. But now, she had a reason to fight. A voice. And the truth. For the first time in years, she whispered to herself, I'm coming for you. Take a deep breath. Relax your mind. Let the words flow slowly and clearly. We want to make sure everyone can follow along easily. Our story is about two people, James and Diep. You may remember them from before. James is a man full of care and concern. Diep is a woman strong and brave, but also gentle and kind. In the last chapter, we saw them face difficult moments. Moments that tested their trust. Moments that made their hearts heavy. Now, as we start this new chapter, we see that their journey is far from over. James wakes up one quiet morning. The sunlight peeks softly through his window. Birds sing gently outside. But inside James's heart, a storm rages. He cannot forget what happened. He cannot stop thinking about Diep. Where is she now? Is she safe? Does she remember him? His mind fills with worry. He thinks back to their last conversation. The words they shared, the promises made, but also the doubts and fears. James knows he must act carefully. He cannot rush. He must be patient, because sometimes the hardest battles are fought with silence. Meanwhile, far away, Diep sits quietly in a small room. The room is simple but cozy. Soft curtains sway gently with the breeze. Diep looks out the window. She sees the world moving on. People walking by, going about their day. She wonders if her life will ever be like that again, peaceful and calm. She feels tired but determined. Tired from the struggles she has faced. Determined to find her own way. Diep reaches for a small photograph on the table. It is a picture of James and her, smiling together on a happier day. She traces the image with her finger. Her heart aches with longing, but she knows she must stay strong. For herself and for James. Back with James, he calls an old friend. A friend who knows much about the people around them. James speaks softly, carefully choosing his words. He asks about Diep's whereabouts. He asks if anyone has seen or heard from her recently. The friend hesitates, then shares some news. It is not all good. There are rumors. Rumors of danger. Rumors of people who want to cause trouble. James feels a cold shiver. He thanks his friend and promises to stay careful. The days pass slowly. James keeps watch over every message and every call. He waits for a sign. a signal that Diep is safe. On her side, Diep faces moments of loneliness. She feels the weight of being alone in a crowd. Sometimes, she wishes she could reach out to James, but she fears what might happen. She fears the unknown. She fears that reaching out could make things worse, so she keeps quiet. But deep inside, her love for James never fades. It grows stronger with each passing day. One evening, James visits a quiet park. The sun is setting, the sky painted with soft pinks and oranges. He sits on a bench and thinks. He recalls their laughter, their shared dreams. He whispers a silent promise to Diep. I will find you. I will protect you. We will be together again. The park feels peaceful, but James's heart is restless. He knows the road ahead will be long, full of obstacles and trials, but he is ready to face them, because love is worth fighting for. Meanwhile, Diep receives a letter, a simple envelope, but heavy with meaning. Inside, a note from a trusted friend, words of encouragement, words that remind her she is not alone. She reads slowly, feeling a small spark of hope. Hope that lights her path through the darkness. Hope that one day, she and James will be reunited. Dear viewers, this chapter is about patience, about courage, about holding on when the world seems uncertain. James and Diep's story reminds us all that sometimes the strongest love is tested by time and distance. But true love never gives up. It endures. It waits. Thank you for listening so carefully. Thank you for staying with us on this journey. Please remember to take your time with these words. Pause when you need to. Let the story settle in your heart. Their lives were changing slowly, painfully, like the quiet ticking of a clock in a lonely room. Diep stood by the window. Rain slid down the glass, one drop at a time. Outside, the city moved. Inside, she stood still, a letter in her hand. It shook gently, not from the cold, but from something deeper. Fear, confusion, and the return of someone from her past. CEO James was pacing the floors of his office. He had just received a phone call. His secretary's voice was trembling. Sir, there's someone asking about Ms. Diep. He froze. His heart sank. He hadn't told anyone about their relationship. Who was it? Who dared dig into her life? He knew he had enemies, but this felt different. Targeted, personal. He rushed out. Didn't wait for his driver. Didn't wait for security. He just needed to see her, to make sure she was safe. Back at Diep's home, she placed the letter on the table. It was from Tung. Yes, the same Tung from her past. He was back. He said he had changed. He wanted forgiveness. But forgiveness wasn't that simple. Not when scars still bled silently. Not when trust had been shattered like glass. And James. She hadn't told James about Tung. Why? Maybe fear. Maybe shame. Maybe because she didn't want to lose the one good thing left in her life. But secrets have weight. And this one was getting heavier. James finally arrived. His suit was wet. His hair stuck to his forehead. But his eyes, they were clear. Focused. He saw Diep. She turned to him. Their eyes met. For a moment, time slowed. She opened her mouth to speak. But James raised a hand. Softly, gently, he walked closer, looked at the letter, then back at her. Did he hurt you? He asked. His voice was calm, but inside, a storm was raging. She shook her head. No, but he's back. James looked at the letter, folded it slowly, put it in his pocket. We'll handle this. Together. She nodded. But even then, she knew something had shifted. James had a past too. And if her past was returning, so might his. Later that night, James couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, thinking, calculating, worried. He opened his laptop, typed something into a private search, then paused. A single name stared back at him. Tung. Underneath it, a file, a record, and a photo. James leaned forward. What he saw made his blood run cold. Stay with us. The truth is only beginning to unfold. And the shadows around CEO James and Diep are darker than ever before. The next morning in Diep was unusually quiet. James, now unsure of everything, decided to take a walk through the misty pine trails. He needed air. He needed time. But mostly, he needed the truth. As he walked through the trees, he remembered the letter. The letter he found tucked under his hotel room door. Written in Lied to Diep's handwriting. It read, "James, if you're reading this, I couldn't wait to explain. There are things you don't know. Things I've hidden. Not because I wanted to lie, but because I was afraid. Afraid that if you knew, you'd walk away. But I can't keep it inside anymore. I saw Tung yesterday. Yes, I met him. Not because I wanted to, but because he threatened me. He has something dangerous about my family. He said if I don't speak to him, he'll go public with it. I wanted to tell you. I swear I did. But I didn't want to put you in danger. If you're angry, I understand. But know this. I've only ever loved you. Forever. Diep." James stood frozen in the trail, the letter trembling in his hand. He didn't know whether to cry or run. He had accused her. He had yelled. And now, this truth weighed heavier than any mistake he had ever made. Suddenly, a voice called out, "James." It was Lied to Diep. She had been looking for him all night. She stood at the edge of the clearing, her eyes red, her cheeks streaked with tears. James walked to her slowly. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" he asked. Diep swallowed her pain. "Because every time I try, someone gets hurt." "Then let them come," James said, his voice firm. "Let them try, but we face them together." That night, James and Diep sat outside, beneath lanterns strung between trees. There was peace in the air, but only for a moment. Diep reached into her bag and handed James an envelope. "What's this?" "My father's letter to me. He left it before he disappeared." James opened it carefully. The letter was old, yellowing at the corners. It read, "My precious Diep, if you're reading this, then the past has finally caught up with the present. You must know, I was not the man you believed I was. I made enemies, and one of them is Tung's father. He and I were once partners, until he betrayed me. And now, our children are paying the price. Protect yourself. Trust only those who have proven their heart. And if you ever meet someone who truly loves you, don't run away. Hold on to them, because love is rarer than gold in this world. Forgive me. Love, Dad." James stared at the paper. So many secrets, so many broken threads. And in the middle of it all, Diep stood, still trying to protect everyone but herself. He took her hand gently. "No more hiding. We go back to Saigon. We get answers." Diep nodded. Together. Together. Always. As they rose, a small lantern drifted into the sky above them. A light in the dark. A promise of hope. After the challenges they faced in the past, James and Lied to Diep are trying to rebuild trust and hope. But sometimes the past has a way of catching up with us, even when we want to move forward. In this chapter, we see them both striving to heal, but shadows loom in the distance. Old friends become uncertain allies, and new faces appear with hidden motives. Take a deep breath, and let's walk together through this journey, one step at a time. The days following their reunion were calm at first. James and Diep spent quiet moments, sharing stories and dreams that had been put aside. But as the sun rose higher, whispers from the past began to stir. James received a mysterious message, one that made his heart tighten. Someone was watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. Diep noticed subtle changes in James. He was more cautious, sometimes distant. She wanted to reach out but feared opening old wounds. Meanwhile, Diep herself faced challenges from those who questioned her loyalty. Rumors spread slowly, like a creeping fog, causing doubt in the hearts of those around her. The couple had to decide. Would they let these suspicions divide them? Or would their bond be strong enough to withstand the storm? Slowly, they realized the answer was within themselves. Trust must be rebuilt piece by piece. And so, they began the delicate process of healing, step by careful step. Sometimes the hardest battles come not from outside forces, but from within. James found himself haunted by memories, moments of regret and pain that he tried to forget. Diep, too, struggled with feelings of insecurity and fear. Together, they faced the shadows that threatened to pull them apart. A visit from an old friend brought unexpected news. This friend carried secrets that could change everything. James and Diep listened, hearts heavy but ready to face the truth. With every revelation, they learned more about each other's strengths and vulnerabilities. They discovered that love, when true, is a powerful force capable of breaking down walls and healing wounds. Yet, the journey was far from over. The past was still present, waiting in the wings, reminding them that every choice carries consequences. In the quiet moments between the storms, hope began to shine through. James and Diep found comfort in small gestures, a hand held, a smile shared, a promise made. They started dreaming again, not of what was lost, but of what could be. Together, they planned a future filled with peace and understanding. They knew the path would not always be smooth. Challenges would arise, but their commitment to one another was now clearer than ever. Friends old and new offered support, reminding them they were not alone. With every step forward, their bond grew stronger. Hope rekindled in their hearts, lighting the way toward brighter days ahead. As the sun set on this chapter, James and Diep stood side by side, ready for whatever lay ahead. They had faced doubts, fears, and the weight of the past, yet their love remained unbroken. Looking toward tomorrow, they made a promise to listen, to understand, to stand together through all of life's trials. Their story was far from finished, but they knew that with patience and faith, anything was possible. Dear viewers, thank you for joining us on this journey. If you have followed James and Diep's story so far, please like this video and subscribe for more chapters ahead. Your support means the world, and together we will continue to explore stories of love, trust, and resilience. As we continue this journey with James and Lie Too Deep, it is important to remember that every peaceful moment holds a hidden promise, or sometimes a warning. For days, they enjoyed a calm that felt like a soft breath after a storm. Each morning, Diep would prepare tea slowly, gently placing the cups on the wooden table, watching as the steam rose and danced. James would smile quietly, appreciating the stillness, the simple joy of being together without fear. But beneath this calm, subtle signs began to appear. Small things that seemed unimportant at first, but carried weight like tiny cracks on a wall. A phone call left unanswered, a glance over a shoulder, a knock at the door just as night fell. It was as if the world was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Diep noticed James growing restless, a furrow in his brow that hadn't been there before. She reached out gently, but he shrugged her hand away, lost in thought. This silence, though filled with love, also carried tension. They both knew that soon, the past would come rushing back, breaking the fragile peace. The morning sun filtered through the curtains, casting soft shadows across the room where James sat alone. His hands trembled slightly as he held an envelope, its contents unknown but heavy with meaning. Inside were letters, old letters, from people he once trusted, but who had betrayed him in the most unexpected ways. Diep found him there, quiet and distant. She sat beside him, placing a comforting hand on his arm. "James," she whispered, "you don't have to face this alone." He looked up, his eyes full of pain but also a glimmer of hope. Together, they began reading the letters. Each word revealed a part of the puzzle James had long tried to ignore. Old friends had hidden truths, some painful secrets that could change everything between them. At first, Diep felt a wave of fear and confusion. How could the people closest to James betray him so deeply? But James's strength surprised her. Instead of breaking, he became more determined to protect what truly mattered, their love and future. They made a promise to face these shadows together, no matter how dark the road ahead. Ames and Diep both knew this well now. But healing is not always a straight path. Days turned into weeks, and with each sunrise, new challenges appeared, not only from outside, but from within their own hearts. James struggled with moments of doubt. Memories of betrayal haunted him, whispering questions he couldn't silence. Was he strong enough to forgive? Could he truly trust again? Diep, too, felt the weight of past wounds. She questioned her own worthiness. Sometimes, when alone, tears would quietly fall as she wondered if their love could survive the storms. Yet, in these moments of vulnerability, they found unexpected strength. James began writing letters to Diep, not to be sent, but to express his feelings, fears, and hopes. Diep, in turn, kept a journal, filling its pages with dreams of a better tomorrow. Slowly, step by step, word by word, their hearts healed. But the world around them was not so forgiving. One afternoon, a knock echoed through their quiet home. James opened the door to find an old acquaintance standing on the porch, a man with a kind smile but eyes that held stories of hardship. The visitor introduced himself gently, explaining that he had come with news that could change everything. He spoke of a threat lurking close, a danger James and Diep had not seen coming. Someone from their past was watching, waiting to interfere in their lives once more. The weight of this revelation settled over them like a heavy cloud. But instead of fear, it sparked determination. Together, James, Diep, and their visitor planned carefully. They discussed ways to protect themselves, to keep their love safe amid rising storms. In those conversations, bonds of friendship grew stronger. Trust extended beyond their small circle, building a shield against the darkness. As evening fell and stars began to sparkle softly overhead, James and Diep sat quietly, hands intertwined. They spoke of the future, not as a distant dream, but as a promise they would live every day to honor. They vowed to listen patiently, to support each other through every trial, and to cherish every moment together. For them, love was no longer just a feeling, it was a commitment, a choice they made each morning as the sun rose. To all of you watching, dear viewers, thank you for being with us on this journey. If you have felt the struggles and hopes of James and Diep, please show your support. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share this story with those you love. Together, we will continue to explore the beauty and complexity of life, love, and resilience. Until next time, take care and remember, every story is worth telling, and every heart is worth healing.